When it comes to Little Rock, Arkansas, most people don't necessarily look at Little Rock as a bright spot. When you say Little Rock, people will think of Gang Bang Little Rock or Little Rock 9. Those are things that are known here, but there's more to it. There's stories that you may not have ever heard of. Coach Ed, he was my little league football coach. Taught me how to play the game, take responsibility for what I do and my actions, and how to be a family man. Not only has he done that for me, he's done that for many others. For instance, Leslie O'Neal, Keith Jackson, George Stewart, many others. Not only the college level, but the NFL level, and are thriving out in the community, and are positive role models. This guy started coaching in the early 70s, and he's still coaching till this day. He's still making that difference. He's not getting paid to do it. This is completely 100% volunteer. And this is why I believe it's a story that should be told.
In 1971, the young hero Ed Johnson returned from war depressed and crippled from his injuries. He sustained one of his injuries from a landmine which blew the back of his heels off, and the other from an ambush that blew his kneecaps off, ending his tour and earning his second Purple Heart. He earned other heroic medals during the war, the Bronze Star and the Silver Star. One medal was for retrieving a tank under enemy fire, and the other was for discovering the enemy's underground hospital. Little did Ed Johnson know is that upon his arrival home was only the beginning of his heroics. The following year in 1972, Ed Johnson went from being disabled war hero to Coach Ed of the Sunset Tigers. Coach Ed would spend the next 44 years as the hero that positively influenced and impacted the lives of thousands of young black men that played for his Little League football team, the Sunset Tigers.
We were prepared by a guy who took the time, who understand the importance of not only coaching, but teaching.
I think the thing that I learned from Ed the most was, he would talk about life for at least 30 minutes before football practice even started. And that was the thing that stuck with me the most.
Ed used to live on Marshall, so a lot of times we meet at his house and we jog down to the field and stuff, and he jogged down there with us, and I just thought that was just an amazing thing that our coach was running with us, at that level.
The sports was a big part of my life growing up. I mean, sports taught me discipline, respect, just about everything. I had a mom. My mom's worked 2 jobs. She go to work in the morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, get off at 11 o'clock at night. So I chill with Coach Ed a lot, you know what I'm saying? So that was my life.
He was always a positive coach and always telling us what we could do, what we could become.
My dad wanted me to go to a place to learn how to play the game because that's what I said I wanted to do. And with Ed, he taught me the game.
He was the person that I really believe gave me direction in life.
Well, we ain't no neighborhood team. We just like what that commercial say, we don't die, we multiply. That's Sunset Tigers. When we come through them rails right there, we went out on the field to the sideline. We styled and profiled, letting you know this is us.
I was just a kid, and I was on the swing, just swinging one day, and Ed Johnson walked up to me and he said, "You're a pretty big kid. Do you want to play football?" And I said, because I knew him because he coached my older brothers. And I said, "Nah, I don't want to play." And so next day I came back again, just swinging. He came back, he said, "You want to play football?" I said, "No, I don't want to play." He goes, "If I give you an ice cream cone, will you play?" I said, "Yeah, I'll play." So that's how I started playing football.
When I first moved down here from California, from Emeryville, my cousins, they was like, "Hey, we playing Little League football. Why don't you come out and play with us?" I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a shot," because I had played flag football back in California. I love playing football, so I came out there with them. And that was like my introduction to meeting Coach Ed and the Sunset Tigers. It's kind of like belonging to a club. Like the Boys and Girls Club or just the Boy Scouts, anything like that. That's what organized sports was for me. It was like being able to go to a place, hang out with my friends, have fun. Not only were we having fun, but we was learning a lot of key things about life, how to be young black males.
Ed really cared about the kids. Ed, if he didn't have, it didn't make no difference. He would buy the equipment himself. If somebody donated, he would take it and everything. But every kid that came out in this program, he found a uniform for him.
Well, I learned the game of football because, he taught us how to be tough on the field. And he taught us how to be winners. He taught us how to never quit, and that's one of the things in life that I've learned is how to be tough. Like I said, those things that he learned, he taught us, it stuck. And so when things have gotten hard with me in life, I can reflect back on that. And the toughness, the mental toughness, hey, I think that's what helped a lot of us get to where we've gotten.
Man, thinking back on that, and it taught me toughness. It taught me how to endure, because a young Coach Ed was the guy who had just come back from Vietnam. He served our country over there, and he was looking for an outlet. He chose football to start coaching. Like I said, he coached my older brothers to help him, to give back to the community. So he taught me how to persevere, because even though I was a big guy, I went against bigger guys, we went against older guys. He took us to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we played an older team and beat them. And that's what I got for him. And the young Ed Johnson is just like the old Ed Johnson. I wouldn't say old, but better Ed Johnson. I see him today, he's still the same guy. He still treats you with respect. So he'll always be my coach.
Winning wasn't the most important thing. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to win, but with the team, I never really remember anybody just saying, it's just all about playing. Just playing to have a good time. Even though we won all those games, we didn't want to lose, but it wasn't like we just had our chest up like we better than everybody. We just no, we winning games. That's great and all, but we having a lot of fun.
Coach Ed, it was more like a father figure to me. He actually, when we played football growing up, of course he was a coach, and we all looked up to him. He was always one of those African American males in the community that everybody looked up to. But when you played for Coach Ed, you looked at him as a mentor, you looked at him as a father figure, but you also looked at him as a coach. And interesting enough, you didn't call him Coach Johnson, you called him Coach Ed, because he always put you almost on first name basis where you respected him, but he had a relationship with you.
And Ed was very consistent in this program. A lot of the other coaches did. At that time, you had the Razorbacks and the Raiders and all. Different coaches, but Ed kept his coaching staff intact. And he wasn't no question about who was in charge. From year to year, who was going to be there. That Ed was going to be in charge. So I just liked his style. He had spent a lot of time talking to Ed probably talked to his boys as long as they practiced. You remember at the start of practice, you sit up there in them bleachers. He wouldn't let you go to sleep, but he would talk 10, 15 minutes before practice. Then you would go to practice, but he had your attention.
Coach Ed actually, and this is a little bit of a funny story. Coach Ed met my mom's in a store before I even came out to Sunset P.A.R.k or doing anything like that. But he met my mom in a Walmart or something like that, and just I guess they just started talking or whatever, and after that, you know, he let me know that he's got a little football team, and I didn't know it was, you know, nothing like a Sunset Tiger deal or nothing like that. I mean, it's a real big deal now, especially in Little Rock. But yeah, that's how I actually met Coach Ed, through my mom. She met him first.
But I had older cousins that played way before me. They like 10 years, 11 years older than me. They played for Sunset, and so I always heard about Sunset Tiger this, Sunset Tiger that, and it was always Sunset and the Razorbacks. So the fact that my cousins played for Sunset, I was just like, man, I want to play for a winning team. So, I mean, the decision wasn't hard to make after that. So anyways, I ended up going down to Southside Park and meeting Coach Ed for the first time. Like I said, I heard so much about him from not only my cousins, but other guys in the neighborhood saying how great of a coach he was. So I wanted to be a part of that.
Learned a lot, learned leadership, responsibility, learn how to interact with people that, you know, you meet people from all over the city of Little Rock. I learned a lot from here.
We were in Jackson, Mississippi. See, being a part of Sunset, we was able to travel, something that we probably wouldn't be able to do in the financial situation we was in when I was growing up. But we was in Jackson, Mississippi, and we always had a curfew. Coach Ed always gave us a curfew. We were supposed to be in our hotel room, stay in our hotel room at a certain amount of time. So, being teenagers, we go out and open the door, and Coach Ed and Coach Wiley was like standing right outside the door and was like, y'all need to get back in the room. We was like, okay. So then we waited till like we thought they was asleep, and we didn't know Coach Ed had put some tape on the door. So when we opened the door, you know, it broke the tape. And so we got like suspended for like the first half of the game. But it's funny now, but it wasn't funny to us then.
I grew up without a father, so I mean, I learned, Coach Ed taught me how to tie a tie. He took me to my first movie. Man, he was like a father figure to not only me, but a lot of other cats around there.
You know, I remember one Saturday morning, I gathered up Keith, Anthony Chambers, Rodney Cole, Kenny Cole, and a bunch of us, and we'd go running. We used to sing this song. We are the Tigers, mighty, mighty Tigers. So I get them, and I put them in a military formation, and we all run past his house and wake him up. And he came to the door, man. He was just smiling, but it was a bunch. That's how much fun we had as little 11-year-old kids, man. That's probably the best thing I had.
I didn't want to do this. This happened by accident. All this happened by accident. Miss Gray talked my brother into, well, actually, when I came home from now, and you see, that's me up there, that picture up there. I was on crutches. I was crippled. My legs was pretty much, they had said I would never walk right again. And at that particular time, I was more of probably dejected because I couldn't run no more, couldn't jump, couldn't do anything with my legs. I got wounded in both legs in Vietnam. And because I had been used to being like a jungle rat, running all over the place, being one of the best street football players in the neighborhood. That was me. But when you come back from the war, then I couldn't do none of that stuff. Everything was like, just sit down and hope these things stop hurting. And I was sitting in front of the house one day talking with a bunch of kids. And Miss Gray come along, and she had knew my brother and stuff. And she saw them kids out there with me, and she said, all the time she had been walking through the neighborhood, she had never seen anybody just sit there with a bunch of kids in front of them. About 2 or 3 days, she kept coming back asking me about putting together a football program in the neighborhood and would I mind helping. And I told her, I said, I ain't interested. And I really wasn't interested at that particular time because my mind was so far out, it was way down. And my dad kept talking to me about how I could get Vietnam in the back of my head, and he kept saying, you ought to go and try to do it because you know you like working with kids. Because I used to work down at Thrasher Boys Club every evening I got out of football practice. I would go down there because my 2 younger brothers playing flag football at Thrasher. And my brother Big June kept saying, you know, you ought to go and do it, you ought to go and do it. Man, I ain't interested. And him and my dad got together and put one of them little power punches on me. Dad said, if you do this, you do that, I'll do this for you. And my brother said, I'll help you. And then they got to talk to Miss Gray about it. And I think he gonna do it. And I told him, Gray, I wasn't doing nothing. They just lying, I ain't doing nothing. So Miss Gray, she did the next best thing. She went and bought 17 football uniforms. That's all Star Sporting Good had, 17 left. She bought 17 jerseys, 17 helmets and pants. She put it down in front of me and she said, now I need your help. If you don't want to coach, show me what boys we can pass this out to. So that was the trick way of getting me involved with the kids. So I started picking the kids on who she wanted to put in uniform. So that started me into that. Then my brother said, I'll help you. I said, well, there ain't nothing I can do on the football field except tell them what they got to do. And then step one came and we put the team together in 1971 down at Thrasher Boys Club. Our first competitive on the field was in 1972. That's why we say now our birth year was 1972 because 71 we were just a neighborhood play thing. And then we started getting off into competitive football. She put everything together, got us in the EOA league, paid all the fees and everything, and she did everything up front that a person wanted to do to put a team in the league. Mr. Whitmore lived down in the circle down there. Mr. Whitmore owned all that land back there where the park is at. And it wasn't nothing but a jungle. Miss Gray, she had clout. She made the city bring some road graders down there, bulldozers and everything else. Knocked all the jungle down. And for the first year or two, if the mosquitoes didn't own it, then we owned it until the mosquitoes came down at dark. That was our home.
Well, for one, it builds camaraderie. It definitely builds camaraderie. Teamsmanship. It lets you know that you're not individual, that you're part of an organization that's moving in a positive direction. It teaches you a lot of character. And just give you something positive to look forward to every day.
He would play teams out of Mississippi. He played teams over in Memphis. And then the rivals in the city, the guys from out on the east side with we get to name the various teams now and everything, but it would be some rocking and socking down at the little Sunset Ballpark and other parks he played in around town and everything, So I can remember a lot of those games. They would be intense up at Dunbar Community Center back on that little football field and around. So I remember those games. They were a lot of fun. Big following crowds, cheerleaders, the whole thing. If you didn't know anybody, you could look at Friday night flights. They were there. They were just there. So I remember those games and the ups and the downs, the winning and the losing, the kids. Some of the kids that come through that played Super Bowl, pretty much that ended their career. Some of them went on, some of them didn't.
Coach Ed he taught technique. The great thing about the Sunset Tigers and Coach Ed was not only we had remarkable athletes. You think about myself going pro and guys like Leslie O'Neal and Ricky Williams and Anthony Chambers, just some household names for athletes. But at the same time, he taught us technique. So not only we had more skill than most teams, but technically we were better than most teams. And when we left the Sunset Tigers and we went to our junior high school, whether it was Horace Mann or Henderson or Forest Heights or whatever junior high school it was, coaches didn't teach us how to get in a stand, how to run routes, how to put together plays. We already knew.
The biggest thing is the competition. We worked hard out there playing. And, it's hard to say that you worked hard considering it's fun. So when it's fun, it's not work. But we competed, back in those days, we do bull in the ring and all that kind of stuff, where we circle up and he'd call out two numbers and they run, hit each other as hard as they can. And it made you not scared because you never know who he would call their number out, that type of deal. But it was fun, but it gave us that competitive edge. And that was the thing that's nice. One of the things that I realized in my pro career was that there are a lot of guys that I've seen that have had a whole lot of talent, but it was just a desire to play day in and day out. Their desire to compete and continue to compete. A lot of guys would shut it down when they would get to the next level or at various different times, and that's the difference between success and failure.
Well, I really can't lie to you. You get used to winning games, continuously winning games. That's what you feel like you're supposed to do. No matter what level you go to. After playing with Coach Ed, year after year, you can just pick a year, man. So many years they'll go undefeated, they'll win so many games. And going from little league is usually little league, then junior high ball. When you go to junior high ball, you expect them to do just as good. And do things like that, but it gives you a lot of confidence. First off, because he put you in positions to where he can highlight you in a lot of different cases. He's got a board down there, a lot of guys' name on that board, and that gives you the confidence, man, that you can continue to keep doing this stuff outside of Little League.
Well, winning at the age of 11 and 12, I think we may have lost one game in 2 years. And we were devastated when we did lose that one game. So at an early age, I understood what victory was like, winning, and working hard to achieve, to get that feeling after victory. You get that victory feeling, man, and that just carries over. And it makes you want to work hard. It makes you want to be the best that you can be at your craft. And I left from there, went on to Henderson where we won, P.A.R.k where we won, went to Fayetteville where we won. It was just, I think one kind of piggybacked on one another. Losing was just something that devastated you once you were used to winning.
I learned how to win because we never lost. We were always champions. We always won. And when you get the taste of that winning side of football, it builds that thought process. The Coach Vince Lombardi says it like this: winning is not a sometime thing, it's an all the time thing. You don't do the right thing some of the time, you do it all the time. Winning is a habit, but unfortunately, so is losing. The thing I'm so grateful with Coach Ed is he created a winning habit. So that winning habit left the football field and win in life. So I win in my marriage, I win with my kids, I win with my job. I don't lose because I've been taught to win. Coach Ed is the reason for that.
The list goes on. Coach Ed, character, he was a big character guy. Discipline, being around the right people, choosing the right friends, making sure, I can remember day in, day out, he always talked about respecting others and respecting your parents. I had that respect anyway. He just almost made it that much more of a big deal. But the biggest thing is to show respect to just, everybody around you, whether they're your age or especially if they were older adults.
You hear about somebody that left school and went to Vietnam and they came back in a body bag. That's the only thing you ever heard about was friends, they got killed in Vietnam. I ain't even been in the military now no more than 4 months and don't like it. They're like, hell, boy, I'm stealing bananas, stealing food, still being a little gangster in the military and everything. Anybody need anything out of the kitchen, Ed get it for them. I was in country for about 4 months. I blew my heel off. Stepped on a peanut butter man, and it blew my foot open. I stayed out of the jungle for about 5-6 weeks, had my foot healed up. Then I went back to the jungle. And it was like 9 months later when I got wounded again. They told me I would never walk again. You don't take time to think about what you're gonna do. You do it by reaction, like in the football game. You don't learn now how to do everything by react. Don't stop and think. When you stop and think, you either dead from a sniper or you dead from friendly fire, your own people shooting you. And you find a lot of guys get killed by their own people and they're covered up at home. But the good Lord figured out that he had something better for me to do. Those kids down at the park.
A lot of things you guys may not know is that our equipment, Ed had to go get it used. and we would come to his house and we would paint those helmets orange, and we put the stripes on the helmets. So there were many different colors. And so, but he would go out and get all that gear. And that touched my heart. And someday, now I'm in that position where I can go out and help kids and give back. And it's such a great feeling. He feels it too, to have a kid come up to you that you helped 2 years ago and they say, "Hey coach, how you doing?" Great thing.
We need more mentors. We need more mentors like Coach Ed and all the other coaches out there. I think Little League football coaches are extremely important because that's your first level of getting out in something that's physical, but yet still you have to learn how to use restraints. And you got a person that's an elder that's above you in a coaching position, and you got to learn respect for that position. So when they say something to you like, you go and do these up downs, you just do that, or do push-ups, you do push-ups. So you're used to hearing that authoritative voice, but yet and still you respond to it because you're used to it. I think that our kids today don't go through that. They don't go through it with their parents. They don't go through it with an uncle. They don't go through it with a pastor. So when the first thing they see is maybe a police officer, and they don't have that same level of respect for authority. But those Little League football coaches are very important in that.
One of the things that's lost is we've lost our ability to be conscious of space. And I think that what we have to realize is that even though I'm out somewhere, I still have to respect the space of the people around me. And I think if everyone did that, then I think it would make the world a whole lot better. I think with some of the shootings and all that, a lot of it is misunderstanding, a lot of it is egos. You never know what happened before your encounter with somebody else. You don't know what they did before that day, what they had to go through that day, what went on in their personal life, and the few minutes that you meet or whatever are real crucial. And sometimes people carry things from one meeting to the next, and that's why I think we have problems.
Well, I can see a lot of young men that's not a part of something that's positive nowadays. It's like some of them are just kind of feeling their way through life. They don't understand the value of an education. Some of them even know why they even come to school. I mean, when you come to school to be a problem, or to be a disruption, to be a distraction, that's not what school is about. I don't think they realize the importance of getting in that classroom and making good grades, and at the ultimate, getting a diploma to where you can do something with. I don't think some of those guys quite understand that. I mean, but this is something I'm harping on and preaching on every day, letting them know that they have to have something. They have to have some type of piece of paper showing that I'm qualified, I'm certified to do something that I can walk on the job and say, hey, here's my credentials.
Young men, the problem nowadays is that father figure. It's not only just being a father figure, I mean parenting, period. I mean nowadays you got all these younger parents that really don't know the essence of raising kids. Don't continue to use not having your father in your life as an excuse to do wrong.
A lot of stuff is handed to a lot of men nowadays, and a lot of people don't go outside and play. Like we used to get locked out the house when I was young, to be made to go outside and play. Now video games are such high technology that a lot of people rather compete against each other in a video game than going outside and competing against each other doing actual physical activities.
I know when I was a kid, when all of us were kids, man, we used to do a lot of things together. Not only just playing football, but like I said before, Coach Ed will take us to, every Tuesday he'll take us to like the 10 to 10. We'll watch, dollar movies over there every Tuesday. He'll keep us together to where, we ain't got to be out in the Sunset Terrace, you know what I'm saying, in the Wolf area and things like that, where a lot was going on in the neighborhood. He'll get a lot of us outside of the neighborhood and go do other different things.
The positive role models, because everybody always has the attitude, well, I can tell you what to do, I'm gonna tell you the correct thing to do, but I'm not doing the correct thing myself. We all know that kids always pick up on what you do. Like no matter what you say, they're gonna actually do what you're doing. And that's what I think is lacking with a lot of our males.
And it's not just the young black males, it's just kids in general. You know, the only reason why I was able to go to college is because of football. My father was a garbage man, and my mother didn't work because she was disabled. I mean, I didn't even know what was past Moulton, Arkansas. That's how country I was. And through football, I got a chance to see the world. And it taught me, I got a chance to see other cultures and how other people live. You know, so that was my out.
When you think Coach Ed taught us how to not only play the game, but also play the game without screaming and hollering and cursing. And he was always positive. He always made you feel good about playing on the field. He always had something to say that would lift you up. And as a parent, you always have that thing that you always want your kid to be better than everybody else. You want them to work harder than everybody else. And you always want to push their negatives. Like, I want to get you better in this area. I love you. I want you to get better in this area. Coach Ed taught me that you can help a kid a lot better by being positive toward them. You don't always have to be negative. And he had a positive form of coaching.
God has been good to me for so long. And before I get on that field out there, I mean, you know you're gonna get bumps and bruises. You know something will happen, but if the good Lord protect that little boy, he'll be all right. You know, the game you play, there's gonna be some broken bones every now and then, stuff like that. We've been fortunate. Out of all my years, I've only had 2 kids that ever went down on the field. I've seen coaches get kids broken arms, broken foot, messed up backs. And I look at that, I say, how come these coaches they gotta have ambulances sitting outside the fields because they don't know what's gonna happen during the games. And I tell my players that we don't play that way. My community, it's the greatest community around. We're the only team that left that still playing in their neighborhood games and stuff. We're the only team around here in Little Rock right now that play down in their neighborhood park. Nobody else do it. They say they're afraid of it. They say that they can't control the gangsters, the thugs and stuff. We hadn't had that problem. Man, really, because most of all the gangsters and thugs in the neighborhood, they all ex-Tigers. So they respect this down here as sacred territory. And you can look around now, you can see that you don't see any boombox coming through or gangsters coming down here riding through and heading out. It's their team, Sunset Tigers. I never planned on coaching, but 5 years, I think. I wasn't planning on coaching out of the 70s, I'm just to tell you the truth. I was gonna do it if somebody else wanted to do it. And nobody else didn't decide they want to do it, I got stuck with it, with the good Lord's blessings.
Man, it's really hard to put it in words because just the experiences that I saw at that young age, it helped keep me on the straight and narrow path. I mean, cause just seeing, like you know, I had both of my parents in my life. You know, they always been there. I had a family I can relate to, talk if I ever had any issue. But just seeing some of the other kids not having that, and just, man, it's like being able to experience something through somebody else's eyes. It's like I was able to see how hard life can be through somebody else's eyes. So that right there kind of helped me. Okay, I see how it is when I talk to my friend about how it is not to have a family, or your family there, or you know, not knowing what you're gonna eat, things like that. So that kind of helped me stay on the straight and narrow path. Like, okay, I don't want to be like this. I see how hard it can be out there. So let me make sure I'm doing what I need to do.
I would say there are experiences that athletics can teach you. There are experiences definitely that football can teach you, whether it's being physical, whether it's mental, or whether it's understanding the idea that you always have an opportunity and a chance to win. Go through those processes and learn from those lessons.
Once you get a kid to believe in himself and he can win, man, I can win at this. If I put the work in, then when it's said and done, because your football life is about that long, and your real life is this long, I hope, for a lot of our teams, that you put that same energy into the work you do off the field. That's what winning does. You know, everybody needs to win. Now, you learn your lessons when you lose, all right? But if you don't learn your lessons when you lose, doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. So winning builds confidence. Now, I look at our Hogs right now. And I had a conversation with a guy that works here. I said, just let them win a few games. Once you taste victory, it's let them see it.
He's a great man that just teaches you a lot about sports and life. That's something that he did daily, every day.
Learn about teamwork. That's one of the main things right there. Like, regardless of how good you think you are or believe you are, how good people say you are, you're still a part of the team. Like, for you to be successful, the team has to be successful, that team atmosphere. Because I don't ever remember him saying, this one individual is the only person we need. It's like, nah, we need the line to block, the quarterback got to hand the ball off correctly, fullback got to block. You know, it was always the team atmosphere.
Oh man, especially like young kids, like young men who don't have a father around them like all the time. Man, it give you a lot of insight. Like I said before, he taught me how to tie a tie. I didn't know how to do nothing like that. You know, just different things like that. He came. I caught a flat, and this is when This is after I had been playing with Coach Ed and playing with the Sunset Tigers and things like that. I had caught a flat near Sunset Park. And, you know, he stayed right there, and, right by Wolf and things like that. And he actually happened to see me one day, and he came over and helped me because I didn't know how to change the tire at that time. I'm like 15, 16 years old. I ain't never changed no tire. You know, so he came over and helped me out, do things like that, man.
Well, I've told him to himself. Told him to his face that, and I don't think he may have just kind of played it off. I told him, I said, look, I don't think you realize how important you were to us. To these young kids that's looking for direction, that's looking for a positive role model. You know, some don't, some just like myself, I didn't have a dad in my life.
When it comes to Coach Ed, there's no question, and I tell him this, and he doesn't take it away. There would be no Keith Jackson without Coach Ed. I grew up in a single-parent home where my mother was struggling to keep us in line all the time, and Coach Ed was an extension of that house.
I can say that I'm extremely grateful. I'm extremely grateful, first of all, to have him in my life, because I don't know where I'd actually be right now if I didn't have a guy like Coach Ed in my life.
I'm extremely grateful for Coach Ed being a part of my life. Like I said, he taught me so much at a young age. Like I said, I had my dad there, but Coach Ed was truly my dad away from my dad. We spent a lot of time together, going to the movies, going bowling. Sometimes we just go to his house, he'd grill, put something on the grill, we just talk. A lot of players just amongst each other. Come down to the park, we might even have practice. He'd come down to the park, throw something on the grill, play some music, we just enjoy one another. But, I'm extremely grateful for Coach Ed. He's a great man.
The humility that you have,
Yeah.
because you're a very humble dude. The humility I try to have, I try to be humble. It all started with him, man. It all started with Ed Johnson. And Leslie O'Neal, Keith Jackson, Jamal Henderson, so many greats came from Sunset. And they will all share that same story with you.
one of the things that I remember, I had missed a tackle early on, I think in my first season there. And I got up from missing a tackle and ran a guy down to keep him from scoring. And at that point in time, they was like, man, you are faster than what we thought you were, you know, that type of deal. And that was one of the memories that I remember that I look back on that's really helped me in my career, is that you just keep working. You know, I've always loved the competition, playing the game, and just being able to go out day in and day out and have that competition, that's always been a thrill for me.
Whatever it is that you want to do in life or be in life, work hard at it and try to educate yourself on it. Whatever it is, talk to multiple people about whatever it is you want to do in life. Talk to as many people as you can, do research on it, find information. Because just because you're in a particular environment doesn't mean you have to be like that environment.
Nobody worried about anything. When you come through the gate at Sunset Park, it was just all family, you know, everybody just had. And there wasn't another facility like that in the city, because that was Sunset. All of the other people, teams and stuff, practice at different places and stuff. But that was Sunset Park. And when you came through the gate, you knew where you were.
We would meet up at Sunset Park during the off season, like during the spring football, and we would jog as a football team, you know. And so, you know, we all little boys were 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, running, and we'd run in a straight line. He'd have one row on one side, one on the other side. Sometimes he'd get in the middle and he'd jog with him. And he had to use the restroom. And so he had to do number 2. So we, you know, all those little kids, you know, that just kind of stuck with us. We all laughed at that, and so that was probably my most memorable, most funny, to put it like that.
Well, one of my best moments, I would say, was when my brother Byron was playing for the football team, and I was a little bit younger. You could start at 9, and I was 8 years old at the time, and I was watching him play. And after the game would be over, they would pick teams and kind of play a little more touch football or kill the man with the ball, or whatever the game was. So Coach Ed kind of saw me out there playing and realized I had athletic ability. And he said, Keith, I want you to play football for me. And I said, Coach, I'm not a football player. I was afraid of being hit at that time. I didn't want to get hit. He said, I think you could be as good as your brother Byron. And I said, Coach, I don't think I'm going to play football. Then all of a sudden I heard the sound of this ice cream truck, and I looked over, and there's that ice cream truck. And Coach Ed knew. He said, you know, I'll buy you ice cream cone if you play for me next year. So I told him, he said a popsicle. I said, Coach Ed, if you buy me 2 popsicles, I'll play for you next year. So he bought me 2 popsicles, and I ended up playing for him. I told him I negotiated my first contract when I was 8 years old. So from 8-year-old contract to an NFL contract is all the same. You got to negotiate. But I played for him the next year, and the rest is history.
How he used to take us on these trips. Like, we'll go out to, like, you know, Nashville, different things like that. You know, we'll just all pack up in a van or something like that, a couple of different vans. And, you know, them used to be the best times for me. I mean, it used to be around guys like you and everyone else that was pretty much a Sunset Tiger at that time. I mean, you know, just being with everybody else and all the guys.
Okay. So Coach Ed, I'm thinking he awake. He got his seat let back and his eyes open. And he's not moving, but again, I'm not knowing. I'm thinking, you know, I can ask him a question. But he was asleep. So I'm tapping on him, I'm just like, Coach Ed. He don't respond, and all of a sudden he grabs my shoulder and like almost grabs my neck as if he was in combat. And I was so terrified, but everybody was laughing. And Coach Ed was like, gee, you can't disturb a man like that when he's asleep. I said, I seen your eyes open, Coach. I thought you was awake. He's like, no, what's going on? I was so startled, I couldn't even remember my question. But like I said, looking back at it now, it was funny. But at that time, I was so scared. But I probably say that was one of the things that stuck with me the most, besides playing with some great players.
It's not football. I really don't care about that. I like football. I'm not that much going about football. I'd rather sit there every day for 30 minutes and talk to my kids about life, about growing up, school, church, God, family. I'm a big fan of mom. Cause I never knew what mom really meant, man. My mom died 3 years ago. Boy, that was the hurtingest feeling that you ever gonna feel. And I know me, all the years I've been talking to my boys about mom, I finally felt what really felt about mom. Because I didn't grow up with my mom. I grew up with my dad. And what motivates you is when you see kids every year, all they want to do is be loved and somebody to teach them something. Well, I feel that God gave me that one little image still in me saying, you, the missing link between me and them. When I teach you, you teach them. So when I talk to my kids, I'm coming as truth as I can come to you. And that's what motivates me every time, every year. I see little kids like these, they want to hang around down here. I don't have a problem with that. Because if you want to hang around me, you got to hear what I got to say. You want to go to the movies with me on Friday night, to a ball game on Saturday, that truck, if it can hold 9 people, I'll load 9 people in, we gone. But now, if you don't want to listen to me, and you don't want to hear what I got to say, you ain't going with me. I ain't buying nothing for you. I ain't doing nothing for you. Now, you want to get straight like the ones go to church with me every Sunday? Just stand up in church and look just as proud. And I love every bit of it, man. That's what motivates me to come back every year.